Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Courageous Conversations with Michelle Oliver and Lisa Michelle Zega. And today we're going to have a little different environment. I hope it's not too loud here. I hope you can hear me okay. But it's fun to be out of the house for me. It's kind of an exciting afternoon. I won't say what day it is because this is Monday afternoon, really. So today we are going to talk about a variety of topics. We're going to keep it kind of open so that it flows a little, but we may start out with the idea of letting go to grow, what that means, what that experience has been for each of us. And Lisa Michelle, hey, hello, how are you?
I am doing wonderfully well. Though I am not out of my home, I am standing in the sunshine. The sun is shining in from the window next to me, and I can feel the warmth on my legs.
On your legs? Okay. Yeah, it's really sunny here in Colorado too. And as you can see, there's sun everywhere. And I love that. That's why I live here, honestly. 364 and a half days of sun out of every year. Right?
Magic.
That's why I get depressed easily if a cloud passes over. I'm like, oh, what is happening? I don't recognize the planet anymore. So, letting go. I know we had an episode on this the other day. I can start this off if you want. I'll tell you
That sounds
what I've been.
perfect.
I I ran across, and I was talking about this on Clubhouse with you the other day as well. This there are a lot of modalities out there that really are wonderful tools for us to use to help us just release old emotions, because I do think that that is the ultimate key to letting go of anything to grow. And often we have so many suppressed feelings, and there are many modalities for this, but I stumbled upon one that I actually had gone to a workshop for something called the Sedona method when I was in college, because my mom was always dragging me. I would go down to Arizona for spring break. We would go to Sedona and she would drag me to some wild transformational experience. And this was one of those. I had completely forgotten about it. And I believe that had I been implementing this the whole time, I might be totally transformed into like a giant butterfly by now. Anyway, it's a really cool thing. I've been using it. It's something you just can bring into your awareness and ask yourself a few questions. Like it's really, what is the now feeling? I'm going to put it on fast forward, but the Speedy Gonzalez version of it is, what is the now feeling? Could you let it go? Would you let it go? And when? And then that is a whole thing, right? But that's kind of the crux of it. And it's so simple, but it really causes one to elevate into not identifying so much as I am sad or I am whatever the feeling is, and to be I feel. So it removes you a bit and helps you identify as more of the transformation, and then just identify with that bigger version of who you are, and then allowing it to go and see what comes up. So I'm just going to stop there, but that could be just a leaping off point. And I might
You know, it's
because it's really sunny.
it's super cool because I have actually been doing something really similar, but when I talked to you and got those questions, I've already started integrating that with clients, because those questions and the questions I've been asking clients is, if it would leave, am I willing to let it go? Right? And then just, will I? And then when, which, as you can already see, they're almost a mirror. Before that, I was just, for my own practice, allowing myself, okay, what am I feeling? identifying it either by the sensations in my body or naming it, but then just actually surrendering, like this open palmed idea of, all right, you're here. I'm inviting you to be here if you need to be here or to go. Like I'm letting you go. But it's okay if you stick around, right? Not so that I can engage and have a party with you, but I am going to, and that I've just been so aware of different kinds of, I'm just going to say feelings that I would typically judge within myself. So whether it's, I'm struggling to identify the feeling just right on the top of my head, but it's this idea of wanting to be seen, wanting to hear my name heard, wanting to know I made a difference in, in the room or in the life or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, I see that hunger. Okay, I feel it. I can feel that urge in my body and letting it go. And then I've been playing with it too, of just like, well, all right, but why? Why is there another feeling behind that hungry feeling of, the desire to be seen? And I'm like, oh, because well then I know that I'm safe. Right. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so you're afraid. Okay, let's just feel that fear. Let's feel, and then letting that go. The reason I chose, though, when you introduced those questions to me, especially to utilize those with people that are not practicing this as much, is because it shows how much agency we have. It's like when we give the invitation, hey, would I let this go if I could? It's like, wait a minute, all of a sudden I now have got a choice. Well, right there, when you know you have a choice, tells me this is not me, right? There's a separation between me and the feeling. And then that sense of power of like, oh, wait, I have a choice. Will I do it? And then I get to negotiate with myself like a grown up, like grown up to grown up. Hey, and then if I'm not willing, well, then I'm like, well, how come? And it's usually a payoff, right? Like, well, because then my friends aren't gonna, feel sorry for me and give me the comfort, or I don't get to be like right about this and have my self-righteous identity that I, tend to like and armors me up, or whatever it is. I love that I am in a more honest dialogue with myself than I've ever been as a person. And I think one of the reasons is rule number 6, don't take yourself so damn seriously. And and because of that, I'm just not feeling threatened by my own feelings. But most of my life, I experienced my feelings like, well, like they were a big, scary, hairy monster that was threatening my well-being. Or they were moral, right? Like I can't feel this kind of anger.
Moving,
Whatever it is.
FYI. Okay, go ahead, keep
I
going.
can see that.
I'm just gonna move to a little bit quieter place.
So they're not banging the pots and pans or
Yeah,
whatever they
I
were
didn't
doing
realize.
by.
I know, I'm sorry about that. Is this better?
I think so. I think so. So anyway, I experienced my feelings for much of my life as a threat and of what they meant about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not honest, which resulted in a lot of suppression and repression and all the things. Um, but my ice cube analogy, I just want you to stick with the magic of this for a second. I'm loving it. So hopefully it'll serve you or someone else. But when thinking of yourself like ice and imagining I'm in an ice tray, well, before any melting has happened, I am so stuck to the sides of that ice tray that I'm identified with it. I think this is what happens with our feelings or our thoughts or anything else, our experience. But when we can allow a little melting, then there's movement, and I can engage it in such a way, even if it's ever so slight, I'm not stuck to the edges, so I can see that this is not me. And that brings a relief to me to know that I'm not my feelings. So those are my letting go
Yeah,
thoughts.
I totally agree. That's my point too with the I am. It's like it's not like I am sad. It's like I feel. So you
Yes.
have to have space. And I love the ice. And so I think maybe we could talk about a little bit what are some of the things that women in midlife are wanting, or it's really loud. I'm sorry. Wanting or needing to let go of. Let go, let go. Often I see things like, well, there's so much stuff, Lisa Michelle. There's all the stories. I know you hear all of this too, and we do identify with them, and it's not surprising because you might have been in a marriage for 30 years or 20 years or 10 years or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden something happens and there's a whole bunch of stories around that, or when your kids grow up and everybody has different, but there's all these huge transitions, and there we are. So it is no wonder that we identify as this, all the emotions and feelings. I'm just using two words there because people resonate with different ones, but that were suppressed in order to perform in those roles are still sitting there. What I notice is a lot of women are just kind of sitting there deer in the headlights, like, I don't know exactly what is going on. I know I want to move forward, and for some reason I just feel stuck. I hear this a lot, a lot, a lot. And what I find is it really makes sense to take time with any one of these exercises, modalities, techniques, to adopt that as a habit with which to, like you're talking about, just implement throughout the day. Because as those things start to fall away, who you really are just organically emerges. And women can get so pushy about, I'm just going to add things to myself. I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to
Yeah.
force myself to work out. I'm going to do the darn thing. I know I can do it. I want it. I know I can do it. And they don't understand what's happening. So
No.
I think there's so much power in,
Okay, well, there's two things that I'd like to share based on what you said. And I'll just share one and then we'll see if we want to take that somewhere and then the other. Um, but the very first thing that I'll speak about is the idea that we're not adding anything. And we can see this all over creation, including in our own human body. So, like, for instance, I have muscle already, and I have muscle that is used to hold me up, support me, enable me to lift the things I need to lift, whatever. Now, when I add resistance to the muscle that I currently have, there is a point where I actually cannot lift something that is put in front of me, right? There's a point at which something has more resistance than my muscle has capacity to lift. All right. But with repetition, my muscle actually gets engaged and strengthens. The definition is revealed in my body. My capacity for what I can take on is more, but technically, I didn't add anything, right? And the same is true like a butterfly. That caterpillar has every property needed to become the butterfly. The acorn, everything that's in that acorn is what's needed to become the oak tree, right? So, like, our essence, does that mean that we don't change or shift or morph? Sure, we do. And an oak tree doesn't look like an acorn. My muscles are more defined and there's more available to them. But what was added is the resistance or the struggle, the like and the death and the becoming, but all of it's not like you're becoming a fundamentally different human. And most of my life I lived like that's what I needed to do. Michelle, I was so much like if I could just escape this body and become someone totally different, I could be lovable and worthy and same human. I don't know. What do you think? Are you
I think that it is true.
are you just so distracted by your
I think that it is. I think it, I, I think that it is easier than we allow it to be. I think what you said is true about all of us. I mean, we're just taught that, we're
Yeah.
conditioned to be that way, we're raised that way. It's human nature, and um, and especially for women, by the time they are like, have decades of experience, that we just don't have time to like release everything and be aware all the time. We're just like trying to juggle so much stuff. So I really think that it's largely about releasing and and standing with acceptance, like you said, welcoming it in. And that's part of the Sedona method. They call it that. It's like welcoming. And it sounds so goofy and so simple. I remember the guy who was teaching it, I was just like, he's like a little gnome. He's just like a little happy person. And it's annoying because I was, I think, 20, and I was, knew everything that ever would be revealed on in the galaxy. When it's you're very wise, but it is so much back to that toddler thing. Like it's energy that just flows, and when we let it flow, then you can be aware of what you want to do, and you do it without resistance. I think we naturally will move towards the desire, and that's something too that you mentioned earlier. Under every one of those feelings, when we're releasing them, there's either like there's some kind of longing, wanting. And I think too, as women, and maybe men too, I'm not one, so I don't know what it's like for them, but we 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 are really comfortable in seeking mode, seeking and learning and journeying and processing. And it's like, as long as I'm seeking my potential, you're still going to love me. And I'm going to be like okay in my mind. But you can create this whole looping sensation of never really achieving or accomplishing, and it doesn't make any sense, and you can only hold on to that cocoon for so long. Like you're just eventually, we've talked about this before, your heart shrivels up. It's kind of like, that's why I think so many of the women that I talk to are really discouraged and not understanding why, because they've created this persona of trying all the time. As long as I'm a good girl, and I tell everyone, well, I'm working on the weight loss, or I'm working on the business, or I'm working on I don't care what it is, like the relationship. I'm really making an effort. And then I come back to the comfort of, you know, well, as long as you're working on it, when in fact it's not difficult. We get addicted to the effort and the difficulty, I think, when in fact, when you just stand in who you are and let that be enough, because you have to do that to yourself. No one else does it. They never have, they never will. You're waiting for the prince, he's never coming. So you have to To stand in yourself. Well, actually, he's right now. I think he's walking around. I think
Hold on, I changed
that
my
might
mind.
be that might be him, but actually, oh yeah. And then you marry the same guy you married the last, whatever. I don't know. I'm just playing a little bit. But you know what I'm saying? And yet when we are brave enough to stand in it, sit in it, whatever, and look at it and just say, "Oh my gosh, it's just a feeling." Why are we so why are we running away from this? And then it goes away, then all of a sudden you feel more energy. It takes so much energy to resist. Like you were saying. So much energy.
Yes. So, okay, here I literally just I'm sure this has been written down by someone else, but I literally am like, "Oh, okay. Here's the quick and easy way. Quick and easy. That sounds funny. To do this. It doesn't matter. Give me any kind of goal a woman might have, Michelle. I
Any
don't care if
kind
it's
of
weight,
what? Problem?
any goal a woman might have.
Oh, any goal. Okay, to well, I always think about business. So
Okay.
to grow their business, or let's do something easier. Let's say the goal is to be fit, to change my
Okay.
diet
All right.
tomorrow.
So, okay. So
Change
this is
my diet
perfect.
tomorrow after no, I'm kidding. Kidding.
Little jabs there. Okay, so here's the thing. So one of the ways to fast track this for reals, and it could be business, it could be fitness, is I am.
Wait a
Start with an I
second.
am.
For
Go ahead.
reals?
For
Okay,
reals.
that's adorable. For reals. For
Okay,
reals?
for
As
real.
opposed to meta or virtual. As opposed to for lying to yourself. As opposed to lying to ourselves. This is for real.
Yeah, this is for reals.
Oh my
Okay,
God, I love
so then you just go with, all right, so we're gonna go with getting fit. I am fit. Start there. Now, here's what will happen when we start with an I am statement, like I am perfectly healthy. I nourished my body with good food. I am whatever. We will get offered all the ways that we're out of alignment with that. And all that discrepancy will also bring with it feelings. The feelings are where you want to go. So if it's like shame, if it's sadness, then you go through this method. It's like, okay, I am fit. All the accusations, I feel dejected. Okay, so then I move that into my body and I just let it be. And then it's like, all right, if this would leave, am I willing to let it go? Okay. Will I let it go? Okay. When? Right now. Release the balloon and then come back to the I am statement. And we can work this in such a way. So, the reason I called it fast and easy, and yet I know it's not, there's a sense in which it really is that simple. But all the things that you're storing and carrying about yourself and what you really think about yourself that are creating crappy feelings, that are having you go and break your commitment to yourself and all that, those come up for us and they arise quickly from an I am statement. I am a successful business owner who fill in the blank of whatever your goal is. And all the things between you and that in terms of your thoughts and feelings are going to surface. Ta-da! Here's all the stuff you really believe. All right. And here's the feelings that's creating. Perfect. And then engage the feelings. And notice that you will get lighter. You will experience a release.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. That's the process with every goal. because all you're doing is setting out that visual, that experience doesn't, not just visual, but yeah, that's the process. And I
And
think what, go ahead.
well, one of the things that I have found very comforting in my own experience, and the women that I work with have found comfort in, is you made a statement earlier. You go, well, we get addicted to the trying.
Mhm.
Genuinely, our bodies create feeling habits, and it's like the right, the chemistry makeup in our body that's attached to emotions. Well, here's something that's powerful to recognize: the your basic emotional makeup, the emotions that you gravitate toward, were imprinted for you before you could form your first sentence.
Right.
The way you, based on your personality, your individual makeup, all the unique things about you, like, so Michelle and I could have been raised in the same home and we would have had a different way the emotional makeup landed in our body before we could even talk. When we begin thinking about our feelings, you know what our thinking does? Tries to justify the way that we're feeling. So it offers us thoughts to make sense
Right.
of our little world that we live in, known as our little body or whatever. And then we grow up seeing the world through that thinking, feeling lens. We never know to question it because we're little, and it gets reinforced over time. Now, that can get interrupted at any point and a new worldview can begin, and that's why our interactions with one another are so powerful. And people will remember the third grade teacher that said something that threw an X in your O box and made it a whole different experience and adjusted a trajectory. Sorry, there's hair in my mouth, from my hair got in my mouth. So anyway, but for me to recognize, and one thing I recognize doing grief work with people is the uh, the a lot of our emotions show up in patterns in different relationship. What and it, you can trace it back to that emotional imprint from when you were little, and you just recognize, oh, it's just the way I was interpreting the world. It's not me. And then the ice begins to melt from the ice tray, and there's room for adjustment. But so when you're doing that work, and people can access this all differently, just like you said, it's not like no one needs to go through the work that I do or through, right? There's different modalities and different ways, and but the access of recognizing that we are not our feeling thought patterns, and that it's accessible to us to just um, to do something different than the way we've always done it. And thankfully, our brains are designed and created in such a way, and our nervous system, that it cooperates, it reorients, it shifts, there's plasticity, there's room for change. Like, we were designed for this. So we're not stuck. Even when we think we're stuck, we're actually not stuck. And oh, and I'm stuck, by the way, that's a thinking strategy to keep you stuck. It's just a thought error. It can be shifted just like any other thought. So that's my rant.
Yeah. I like to think of there's so many things. Let me comment on a few of them. So,
Oh,
um,
I not like
it's a lot like our relationship with Google, where when you when you're describing the childhood patterns that we repeat, right? So we search for something and then we get fed back what, so this is why we have so much
Yes,
vision right now.
that's our relationship
Because
with Google.
I
Yes.
I know. That's what I'm
I
trying.
just got the analogy. I'm sorry. I'm a little slow on the uptake.
Okay, so this is partially, actually, this is a large reason why there's so much divisiveness in the world right now because if I let's take a controversy like to mask or not to mask, right? So if you're in that differentiation, um, and you Google it and you start watching YouTube videos on all the reasons you should not wear a mask, you're going to get more and more and more and more of that. And this it's just like when you click on that really cute, oh my gosh, this really cute purple skirt that I saw that I wanted. And I was like, okay, I'm not like, I don't go anywhere in any way. I got to lose weight before I could fit back in that size. I'm not going to buy it. It just keeps showing up and keeps showing up. Now, personally, I appreciate it because I don't want to forget the purple skirt. But in terms of reinforcing your belief system about something, all of a sudden, not really all of a sudden, but gradually you begin to see the world based on that initial Google search.
Yes.
Because every time you reinforce that you are interested or that you are vulnerable to that particular viewpoint, you're going to see more of it. The world's going to show. And that is why when people say the world is your mirror, and
Absolutely.
everyone is you pushed out. I don't know if you've heard that term. That is
No.
the truth. Every person you meet, every interaction you have, every circumstance, every condition is because of your perception. You know, I think Wayne Dyer made this statement really famous, or somebody, one of those guys, that when you change the way you look at things, the way you think,
The way you
the
look at
way the things you look at change, and that is a literal
it's
quantum
yes.
physics will show you that this is the truth. So when you keep marrying the same guy or having the same argument, and it's not about intellectualizing, to your point, it's not about, God, we're stuck here, no, because when you say that and you put your attention on the stuckness, it's just like putting another search into Google saying, show me more stuckness. I'm
Yes.
stuck. I want to see more YouTube videos on what it feels like, what it looks like, and
Yeah.
we just keep reinforcing the same thing. So it's so simple, because when you sit in what you're talking about, like the I, so if you say I am stuck, you know you are identifying, to your point, with stuckness. But if
Yep.
you allow yourself to be aware, and that's what happens when you just stop. And I know for sure that when you start doing these little things, like there's another one of these called the peace process, where you're feeling it now and you put your finger wherever it is in your body and you basically go through that same thing. And when you're in the stuck place, right? And you get a little awareness that says, wait a minute, ding ding, I'm getting a dopamine hit from my phone reminder to say, like, go through the method, right? And then you
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to go through it. Your brain will literally go blank. Like, you'll be like, wait a minute, you have to allow that. You've got to do a Google search. I'm going to consciously choose to search my attention in a different direction. And
Yes.
then you can actually just sit there, let it go, and then you're going to find out, oh my gosh, I am bigger than my feeling, right?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
you do have agency, sovereignty, choice, whatever you want to call it, because you're not. And guess what happens to the other person that you're engaged with? It's a martial arts move, because the energy is uh, freed up. I was going to say broken, but it's not. It's like in martial arts when someone is coming at you and you're there and you just step aside and it just keeps going. So there's nothing to engage it. and it
Mhm.
dissolves. And then you get to find out who you are or
Which
remember
is already there. Yeah.
who you are. Yes.
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
so much fun in that
It
way.
is fun.
It's so different. Yeah.
And I think even so I have gotten to a place in my journey when shame makes its appearance,
Yeah.
I'm excited
Yeah.
because the most powerful breakthroughs in my life have happened in an engagement with shame. But
Yeah.
now, see, there was a time where I was so supra identified with shame, which I
Yeah.
absolutely did not like.
Yes.
So, because I didn't want it in me, I needed to make you bad. So,
Yeah.
this is like super duper important to understand the power that this has in our relationships.
Yeah.
Because when we do identify with the way I feel and the way I think, and we're stuck to the ice tray
Mhm.
sides, then the problem's not with me. So what does that mean? It means I'm continuing to project it out there, and I need to judge you, and I need to make you bad. And now I've given all my power away because you know where my focus is. It's all about how other people made me feel, what other people need to do different. And then the only agency, and I feel like I'm being minimizing. So let me slow down because I've been the person that I'm describing. Um, we end up thinking that we're taking agency when we're like quitting or giving up, but we haven't ever come to recognize that we're separate from our feelings and the other person's actions, and we haven't yet found out or figured out who we are or what we're holding on to. We're still stuck to the sides of the ice tray thinking this is me, when in truth, um, and maybe there's got to be something beautiful and delicious frozen inside that ice cube, because as things melt away, we do come to this gorgeous essence of us, that I think is like the divine spark, our image bearing
Yeah.
majesty. And yeah, yeah, but I I will say, and I'm just having a lot of compassion on myself right now, just thinking, wow, I lived at, at 38 years minimum stuck to the ice cube tray walls, but then in other areas longer, and yeah, and it's not as hard as we make it. Just like you say,
Sorry,
we
there's
make
this
it
like
hard because we
song.
take it as an identity. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. There's a song playing in the background, and I was just like, I don't know, uh, identifying with it. No, so
What song is it?
I completely understand what you are saying, and especially with shame, because that is internalized when you're so young, and
Hmm.
it's a constant thing too. But that's, I think it's just like we just practice like everything. Um, and it really is all could be boiled down to that one statement of right identification, like
Yeah.
identifying as what image, the image of what,
Yes.
the image
Yes.
and likeness of what, whatever your beliefs are, whatever, like, so who am I, that whole thing. And and the thing is that even when you're talking about, I know this is going back a bit, but what I've noticed is, again, the efforting, like, I see a lot of women wanting um, accolades. There is a very deeply ingrained good girl program. And as long as you are efforting and doing the right thing, you're going to get to heaven. That's kind of the idea. Like, I'm not really
Yeah.
speaking in capital.
Whatever heaven is. Yeah.
Yeah, and your heaven is that it could be your end goal, right?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
going to have a successful business, or I'm going to really lose the weight and wear the bikini, or whatever that it is for you. And so I see people doing that now with, like, I say, morning routines, okay? Or even the I affirmations. And the
Yeah.
thing is, if you're efforting, I am, like, you know what? It's just another brain mind flick thing.
Yeah.
So, it's really, there is an ease that is who we are.
Yes.
And,
It's so, go ahead.
yeah, so just gonna say, I don't know. I just, standing in that, it's more of a being, it is a feminine energy. It is a willingness to receive. And I do think there's a thing with women that we think we can only have the things we haven't accomplished yet if we push with our masculine energy. And there's an opportunity here. Let's just put it that way. It goes back to that sex thing, that we talked about in our first meeting, I think. It's a sexual energy, and you can be balanced and not have to, like, push and pull. But anyway,
Sorry, I'm remembering that conversation and
yeah,
my fun comment about it. So,
it was true. It's true.
um,
It's all, and the beauty is, like, you can go into any area and be however you want with it. Isn't that crazy?
yes, yes. I'm actually picturing that. And Michelle's talking about the interplay between our using masculine and feminine energy and playing with that wherever we want. Yeah, I'm like, do I say the comment that I said before? But I'm not going to go there. One of the things, let me just slow down a sec because something came up several times when you were talking. Efforting. Okay. One of the things that has become so apparent, like what you were saying, someone's efforting and they think when I get, if I'm a good girl, I'm gonna get to heaven. But they're attached to whatever heaven is, whether it's getting into that bikini or reaching, a financial thing for your business or whatever. You're going to get there however you got there. So, in other words, if you want to arrive to your dream vacation stressed out and beating yourself and not allowing any rest and whatever that is, then yeah, keep up with the whole efforting. I just got to push, push, push. But if you have a different sense of what heaven's going to feel like in your body, then it's important that we practice getting there in that condition. So the ease that you're talking about and that sense of you said it a certain way of like of who we are, like an inner sense of who we are and that well-being. And so we continue to practice living that way in the present while we're pursuing whatever it is we're pursuing, so that when we arrive to heaven, we like it there. Because if you arrive all frantic and hairballed out and, beating yourself up, then guess what? You're going to get to heaven and you're going to find out, oh, this sucks. It's like hell. Yeah, because you got there in the method of hell. You don't just arrive and all of a sudden it's right. So whatever we're up to, recognizing that I'm going to arrive there in the condition I traveled.
I'm laughing because there was a big pancake.
What here? What, you're laughing because why?
Because there was a big pan banging
Oh,
restaurant noise. Um, Honestly, it's funny. I'm sitting here realizing how much I miss all the hubbub of like having a restaurant. I really loved that excitement of like creating in the flurry of it all. So yeah,
I've
I love.
worked in restaurants a ton. I've never, my husband owned one, but that was before we met. And I actually am really sad I never got to be part of that experience with him. But I've worked at restaurants from the time I got my first job lying about my age at a Bonanza, which is similar to a
Oh
Sizzler,
yeah, I know,
when
but I remember
when
banana.
I was 13. And I worked at restaurants. Like, I love it. I loved being a server, and I did that, guy, I guess into my 20s, mid 20s. And but it's an environment I thrive in.
So funny when you said that and about lying about your age. You couldn't get away with that now, but I remember
No.
lying about my age to work as a cocktail waitress, and they never asked me for my
Mm-mm.
driver's license. I must have been, I think I was 18. I was 18 and I was a terrible, I'm much better at serving from a different perspective, but I was terrible. I remember losing money and like spilling things on people. And I mean, it was like, I didn't like the cocktail vibe because it
Yeah.
was really crazy at night and the way the guys were and everything. And it just flustered
Yeah.
me. Um, But isn't that strange that they would never ask us, especially when
No,
it
I
comes
used
to
my
alcohol?
mom's social security number back then. And I didn't have to worry about it, but they did
Why were
eventually.
we lying? Why were we lying? I just heard
Well,
there
my
was someone
parents wanted me working, and I couldn't work legally without lying.
you wanted to work legally without lying?
Well, my point is they wanted
What?
me to have a real job, and
Oh,
so without lying, I couldn't
you couldn't
get
get a
hired.
job unless you were like mowing lawns or something.
I
Okay.
already had two paper routes. I needed real money.
Oh, what? You
I
did?
started that when I was 11. Yes, my dad really wanted me to have a strong work ethic, and so mhm.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about our first entrepreneurial experiences. That would be fun. But I do want to go back to what you said is, which I think is a great statement, which is you will arrive the way you journeyed there. And part of what we can do is realize, see, what happens is like we have this idea that we have to travel from hell to heaven in the first place. Like we're starting
Ooh,
with a shitty premise, okay? Excuse my French.
that's good.
And yeah, but when we recognize, and this is the whole hustle thing, right? But when we recognize that we can identify with who we are, which is complete, perfect, made in the image and likeness of God, that's how I see it. I mean, however anybody sees it is fine. That means you have all the resources and everything right there in that relationship. So when we get to a point where we can just be in that and like you said, practice, it's practicing that
It's practice.
awareness, then you find out that you don't even have to change and have the perfect travel clothes to show up at the beach looking right. It's really about like this, it's the cliche, the joy is in the journey, because heaven is right here right now, and everything I'm seeing that contrasts with that is my opportunity to release whatever I'm afraid of. Fear is your golden ticket. If you're afraid of it, that is your beautiful door to walk through. If you're afraid to feel the shame, that's where the treasure is, right? If you're afraid to, um, whatever it is, to forgive. So many people are afraid to forgive
Yeah.
someone for
Yeah.
hurting because they crushed me. Well, guess what? They didn't do it.
Well,
Even if
and
they
also
did it,
people
even
think
if they did it, they didn't do it. If you can get your mind around that, like that's you can accept that in a million different ways, okay? Because I
Mhm.
know there are terrible things that people
Well,
do.
some people, and maybe it's a cultural thing, but really, really, really think that forgiveness is some form of condoning. And just since forgiveness
No,
came up, it's never, ever, ever condoning. It's literally releasing the way it's lived in you so that it stops poisoning your experience. It's never making something that was wrong right. It's never making something that was bad good. It's letting it go so that you can be free. So,
absolutely. And it's also releasing that person from that concept so that they can be free.
well, it's I would say it a little bit different, but like what if unforgiveness is a contract keeping us close? And if I don't want to stay in that where you're living in my life and in my body, then forgiveness releases that contract so both parties can be free.
Yeah.
And then whatever else they're carrying and holding, but you're released from that experience.
Yeah, and it's just any way anybody needs to think of it is perfect for wherever
Yeah,
you are
if
right
it
now.
allows you the release. Yeah.
Because again, I know you mentioned this a few times ago, but everything we do impacts everyone around us. So just as we are impacted by our environment and all the crap that you can free other people from that
Absolutely.
bonded, because look at it, think of it as a little kid. It is the expectation, like even if a child, when a child repeatedly does something wrong, and you probably saw this all the time when you were teaching, um, when a parent holds a child in a certain pattern, when they start treating that child as, without even saying anything, as if they, and you can, you guys, I've done this. I swear it is miraculous. And everyone else has done it, whether consciously or unconsciously too. But people who have literally hurt me really, really badly, where I just, when I look at them, I just see, again, to Wayne Dyer's thing of the way you look at something, when you can perceive that maybe it's the idea, will hurt people. Because even that thought allows an energy movement where you're not holding them to this bad person hurt me. When you start to release that, they will start treating you completely differently.
Well, that is it's really, really helpful if we have the mindset that however I'm thinking and feeling toward you, you know exactly what I'm thinking
Yes.
and feeling about you. If I think that, it will help me to understand. Like then I'm like, okay, if you know exactly how I feel and think, well, how would I respond if I was you and I know exactly what I was really thinking and feeling, right? And then so that and that too gives you an angle of how to look at this. And if we're willing, like you said, hey, uh, all right, I'm I'm actually really angry at this person and I feel like they betrayed me and I feel like they should treat me better. And okay, well, am I willing to let go? If these feelings would go, am I willing to let them go?
Yeah.
Will I? When? And that makes space. That it's not good enough to just do that in a relationship, in the sense that how do I want to be thinking and feeling,
Yeah.
right? Especially in our intimate relationships.
Yeah.
But people do respond in the way they know that we're thinking about them. And when I realized that, a lot of the destruction in past relationships, I could see. I was so blinded by my own pain
Yeah.
that even
Yeah.
when I began a healing journey, I was still stuck in my sense of, I still held my feelings and opinions and thoughts about certain people that,
Sure.
well, shoot, that would have made an intimate relationship damn hard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
If
mean, I think it's all the other thing is like it's all okay wherever it is. It's not like I don't know, when I'm talking about this, it's not like I'm perfect, obviously, and but these are practices that allow us to become a more expansive version of who we are, and it brings awareness to relationships, and it, you know, the interplay of relationship is also fun. Like you don't
yes,
always want everything to be just totally neutral all the time.
no.
Um, but something you said, I wanted to mention one point that I thought was interesting when you're saying other people are aware, whether they are aware of it or not, that of what you think and feel about them or what they think and feel about you. Like you sense it, right?
We might not be able to know the right word, but the energy is in the relationship.
Yeah. So
That the energy is absolutely there already.
yeah. So to that point, in the Sedona method, when we were talking about the underlying of that initial feeling that you release, that there are three things. There's actually four, and they talk about three of them, and then and one is like safety and security is one, and then there's the need for approval or love or approval. Those are the two underlying, and the last one is separation. So wanting to be one, because that is the ultimate relationship that we have with our creator. That is an innate impulse inside
So
of
our
us.
longing is to be joined as one, and it's the separation that's the illusion. I just am seeing if I'm
Yeah,
tracking because I'm not familiar.
yeah, and then I was just going to take that one step further to this idea of um, the pain of, so when you're saying other people are aware of that, like you can impact, we're not separate. That's the bottom line
And
is
that's
we're
exactly it.
not
Yeah.
separate. So everything we're looking for, we're either stuck in the longing to be reunited with our creator, which
Yeah.
can also be echoed in an intimate relationship, right? Because we
Yes.
know we're not separate. So if we're really part of the same, then what is this conflict? It doesn't feel right. We want to resolve it. The other is seeing a separate entity and needing them to make us okay, like love
Yeah.
and approval, right? And then the other thing is getting stuck in the desire or the longing or the wanting rather than accepting having it.
Accepting having it.
So so what I mean by that is the wanting is like we say we want something, but we get stuck in the want, which is a lack. It's a need. We get stuck in the desiring, like instead of sitting inside of the, oh, like you were saying, it's already done. I already am
Yes.
that. And putting
Yes.
more interest, energy, intention, and focus on experiencing what that would be like instead of the I'm getting there, I'm pushing, I'm trying, I am. That's the one.
Yes.
And it's so subtle. It's so
Well, and
subtle.
so there's part of me that's like, okay, time. But one of the things I want to bring up in what you're saying is, okay, whatever your goal is, one way to play is, and it's also a way of letting go, because you're letting go of your set way of seeing things, and you
Yeah.
are literally just asking your brain for evidence. Okay, say I want to, bring in 500,000 in my business this year. All right, so then you can bring that down to, well, what does that mean to you? Let's say that means abundance. All right, awesome. Now, rather than focusing my attention on what I lack to get there, it's asking my brain for evidence. Where do I have abundance right now? And it can be, oh my goodness, oxygen, air. I can breathe in as much as I want. It can be relationship. Like, we start to settle ourselves into that we already live in abundance. And so now it becomes more about getting curious of what I'm going to do next from this abundant place, rather than let me focus on my lack to get wherever it is. Or same with, if it's some sort of health journey, it's more about, well, where do I experience health? Where do, right? And looking for evidence, because sometimes I think we've got to just be gentle with our little brains, um and our feeling patterns. Sure, they're patterns, but we want to be tender with them. We want to be tender, like in the sense of being mean. Like, I remember someone saying once, no one ever crawled out from under a heap of condemnation to do the right thing. Well, look, we're not gonna bitch and beat and kick ourselves into becoming whatever it is we're after. Like, that's not how it works. And I've tried. So I can just, like, let me just tell you, I've tried.
Oh
It
yeah.
doesn't work. Let's just skip that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have for sure. And yeah, I think it really is just, if we just think about, if we could always just think about what we want, what we love, and what we're grateful for. And I
Mm,
don't mean what we want from that longing place, but like just focus on it, that thing, that feeling, and then just release everything that isn't in alignment with that. It's that simple,
mm.
you know? And it's that difficult.
Yes. And yes. I will say, the more this becomes a lifestyle, the gentler. Like, I, let me just say, the last 3 days have been some of my best 3 days. And it's just been it's been a conscious, and this is in the midst of some turbulent things. I
I
mean,
know, I was
in my
gonna
life.
say, you're having huge things happen. So that's not saying a tiny thing.
No, and yet I'm feeling such inner peace and poise, and which
Uh,
has been interesting too, to watch in this surrender experience, that I'm actually getting more business opportunities, and I'm not. It's really cool.
and that, that's grace. Like that's the grace everyone talks about. It's graceful, and it's just miraculous, honestly. It just happens because that is who we are. It's
Yes.
not like, I don't know. It just everything we learned about anything being somebody else's fault, somebody else's, um, that's just not what it is. It's us allowing. It sounds so darn cliche. I'm always struggling for new words, but cliches are beautiful because they're true. And it's like you are enough. You are enough. You are everything is fine. Like everything, all is well. Um, and then just sit with that. Sit with that. All is well. That would mean that everything you want is happening, right? Everything. that you wanted to accomplish, achieve, like all is well. And then, like, to your point, anything that comes up against that, just do the method and then just see what happens. Like,
See
just
what
let it be
happens.
again, because why the heck not? And people, women ask me often, I'm just so worried about running out of time. So I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, that's fine. Why would we focus on that? Like, if we are running out of time, then maybe just accept what you want. Because what have you got to lose? Pretend
Yeah.
it's all going to be okay. you know?
Every little
So,
thing is gonna be all right.
yeah. Okay. Well, I am so happy we had this time together, as Carol Burnett used to say. Used to
Oh my gosh, me, the sun shifted, and even though the air's on, I just felt like I was getting, but
broiled.
it's all is well.
I know, you can go put some ice on you now and let it melt. Okay, I'm going
All
to
right.
do something out of my pattern tonight, so, or today, whatever
Oh,
that.
I can't wait to hear more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means. I just am open to it.
All right. I'm gonna be
Okay,
asking.
okay,
Okay, have a good one.
you
Bye
too.
everyone.
Bye.